Hey, what's up, guys? Hope everybody's having a great day. I'm assuming you're probably not. You're probably bored out of your gourd like most of America right now. This whole thing is absolutely nuts. So we're going to talk NBA, kind of like season end awards, because I think there's a good possibility this might be it. I don't even know if we're going to get the playoffs at this point.
I think we'll get the playoffs. I'm not sure. Obviously, no one's sure. Who knows? But at least we got something to talk about. Yeah, because if it ends, I mean, if it's already over, there will be some awards. So let's break it down, then.
I stopped over to Buddy's house real briefly last night, and he's got kind of an important job around here, which requires him to really look into this whole COVID-19 coronavirus fiasco. And like he was telling me that it's not outside the realm of possibility based on some things that he's read that like life as you know it is changed for a full year. And what I mean by that is like this may not just be weeks or months. Like it is not crazy to assume that like this could be your life for a year. And that to me was the most terrifying thing that I heard.
Yeah, in saying that like it could last like this for a year, or just it won't be back to normal for a year.
It could last like this for a year. Not the, again, I think we all put a lot of faith in the intelligent people out there to fix this quicker than that. But like he said, realistically, that's not crazy to think that we might be quarantined. And I mean, they're shutting down California for like a full year. Again, that's like worst case scenario in his mind. But that was just like, oh my God, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I just hope that's not it. Obviously, no one knows, and yeah, worst case scenario, like you said, hopefully the smart minds in charge here, come up with something, and it seems like they're making progress every day. So I'm praying, man.
I want to give a shout out to a couple of people. We did that NFL video the other day, and we talked about supporting local and small businesses if you can. Obviously, you guys probably all know we're going to be hurting big time here since our whole life revolves around sports. So, a couple people sent us just some nice like tips or like kind of just like gifts because they're in good situations and they can do that. And I just wanted to give a special thank you to Eileen Hahn. Ryan Monks is a longtime customer. I know we had somebody else hit you up via Venmo, so we appreciate it to everybody who helped out like that. I mean, that just again. You said it to me best the other day. Like the money is nice, but the fact that people care enough just to be like, hey, man, I know that everything sucks for you guys. Appreciate it. I mean, that means a lot to us. Just like the thought that goes into it, too.
For sure. It was actually that same Eileen who sent it to Venmo as well. So,
Okay.
really
Awesome.
nice from her. Yeah. So, again, we appreciate it. It felt really good just to feel appreciated, like you just said. We don't have a ton to talk about, but I mean, we're going to try to do some stuff, every couple of days at least.
I mean, the only thing that's good about this whole coronavirus fiasco is Instagram and social media memes are on fire. Absolutely hilarious. I can't stop laughing. But again, probably because I have lots of free time to look at them right now, too.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing going for me right now is I just started The Walking Dead, which you put me on. It seems like you've tried to get me to watch that for years now. And I'm starting to get into it. I mean, we're only a couple episodes in, but the last episode might have turned the corner for me.
Okay. I know you're not a zombie guy, and I'm not a zombie person either. So it took me a few episodes. I told you I watched the first episode of Walking Dead. This is years ago, and then the wife at the time and I, like months went by before we were fine. Let's try episode 2. Then it starts to get good.
Okay, so my only question for you is that's what I thought you told me, that it took you a few episodes to get into it.
Yep.
But then you told me that it took you the whole season 1 to get into it.
The season 1 was more zombie oriented, and then as the show progresses and the zombies are fewer, it becomes about the remaining people, the relationships and the characters and the trying to survive. And again, you'll see zombies throughout the show, but every season as it progresses, they become less and less even part of it.
Okay, fair enough.
So anyways, on to basketball, we just thought we'd kind of talk about assuming the regular season is over, just kind of go through what we thought the awards would be. Also where where we thought the season was going to go as far as who was going to come out of the East and the West and stuff like that. So let's start with the MVP award, start with the big one. It clear to me was a kind of a 2-dog race at the end of the season. LeBron was coming on a little bit stronger. And then, of course, my boy Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'm going to still stick with Giannis on this one. And I like the point, and it's a point that you've heard brought up on the national media, and a lot of former players set it up over and over again. Like LeBron has a legitimate running mate in Anthony Davis, who is also in the MVP conversation, according to some people. And I like Chris Middleton, but there is no clear-cut number 2. The Bucks had the best record in the NBA, even despite the 3-game losing streak they went on. The biggest thing working against Giannis is the voters don't like to give it to the same guy 2 years in a row if they don't have to. But in this situation, I mean, with the record and just being by far the best player on your team, NBA best all-time PER, I would stick with Giannis personally, but I get the arguments for LeBron.
The main argument for LeBron is how much worse the Lakers are when he's off the floor. But
good argument.
It is, but with how the season ended, like LeBron wasn't the MVP at that point, in my opinion. He was just like on an upward trajectory. He needed the end of the season to finish out really strong and Giannis potentially to tail off a little bit. So the only question I have not question, but I guess disagreement I'd have with your statement also is that, Chris Middleton is good. He's not seen as good as Anthony Davis. He's not as good as Anthony Davis, and he's definitely not considered as such by the masses. But he is good, and the Bucks have obviously a good team around Giannis, as shown by how good they are when he sits. Now, to kind of pull back a layer on that, though, they play a lot of bad teams when Giannis sits. So again, ultimately, it is Giannis, but it's definitely LeBron too, and it's closer now than it was, a month ago.
Yes, because in the beginning of the season, it was Giannis and LeBron, and it was very close. And then I think Giannis, with how good the Bucks were for a while, definitely pulled ahead. And then the last couple of weeks, LeBron, especially beating the Clippers and the Bucks back to back like that, definitely shortened it for LeBron. No questions about it. I guess my number one argument for LeBron James too is like, dude should have 10 MVPs. And again, like a lot of times, like Michael Jordan should have, I forget how many he ended his career with, but basically every year he was in the NBA, Michael Jordan should have been the MVP, and LeBron's career isn't a far cry from that. So if you want to give him one, it's a lifetime achievement. I would have completely understood that too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's like I get that sentiment, but like I feel like that robs Giannis if he's the true MVP, and he is the true MVP as of right now. So yeah, we agree on this.
Again, yeah, I'm with you. Again, I agree. I'm probably as big of a Giannis fan as there is out there, but I would not have been overly upset if it had gone to LeBron because he's been robbed of it 8 times in his career, probably, because he really should almost always be the MVP throughout the prime of his career.
For sure.
So I guess just because I have nothing else to do, we can elaborate on this conversation a little bit. After those top 2 guys, where do you think you would have gone for a number 3? Like, who would have been the number 3 vote for MVP in your mind?
It's a really good question. I think there's a couple guys honestly, I think Jimmy Butler's right there.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I have no issues giving him number 3 because Miami at 41-24 is definitely overachieved. And I like some of the pieces on Miami, but this is another situation where the best player on their team is pretty obvious. He's also the leader of the team. I mean, we're big Bam fans, both of us. So I like Bam, but Butler is the leader of this team. The veteran presence, the adult in the room. I'm perfectly okay giving him the number 3.
Yeah, same. I mean, after that, who do you think it would be?
Luka, maybe?
Luka or Jokic?
Some time. Yeah, he's missed some time. And then Jokic. And Jokic was so bad to start the year. But Denver sits there at 43-22. He's clearly the best player on that team. So those were the 2 guys. That was probably my top 5. But then also considering Harden and Westbrook, though, too.
So Harden and Westbrook are interesting because actually I think I'd have Dame ahead of both Harden and Westbrook because you've got both Harden and Westbrook. I know Portland's bad, but they were real bad when he was out, and I just think that I would have him right. Like there just doesn't seem to be. I would have him in the top 10. That's all I'll say. Like right with Harden and Westbrook.
It's hard for me to get MVP to a 29-37 team that's not in the playoffs.
Sure, but you're not giving him the MVP. You're saying he's. I get your point. Don't get me wrong. It's hard for you to rank him above those other guys. I get that.
And honestly, Harden and Westbrook should both be right up there. The problem is it's so even between those guys that they pull from each other so much because they're not elite. They're 40-24, number 6 in the West. That's good. That's very good. But they're so even that it becomes so difficult to vote for one of them when their running mate is right there, almost exactly the same type of player and same level or same caliber. You know what I mean?
Honestly, I don't know how many guys get voted for, but it's going to be easily Giannis or Giannis or LeBron 1, 2. It's going to be Butler 3. And then I don't know how many guys they vote for because I think that LeBron and Giannis get all the top 2 votes. So I don't think there leaves a lot of room for other guys mixed in there.
And also as the season, if it were to progress to the 82 games, if the Mavericks could somehow pull off a handful of more victories and skyrocket from like the 7 seed to like the 4 seed, I think that pushes Luka up the voting, especially if he were to remain healthy for the rest of the year and have played all those games. Then I think Luka could have moved up to the number 3 spot.
Sure. I think that there's a lot of what ifs in the West, depending on where teams ended up, you know.
You know what? That is the worst part about this too, is because the end of the season was shaping up to be good, right? This was the first time that like the NBA felt open in forever. I mean, you talked to me. I was basically, you could almost, hear the excitement in my voice of how much I was looking for this back half of this NBA season in the playoffs. And now to think that we may not get it, like that's really disappointing. This would have been different 2 years ago when the Warriors were a foregone conclusion.
So it's not the worst thing for me, but man, it's not good. It's up there. It sucks.
The worst thing for you is no baseball to start the year, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can't even believe it.
All right, so kind of shimming our way down to rookie of the year. It's kind of not much of a debate, right? I mean, how do you not give it to Morant?
Yeah, it's Morant right now, and obviously this is another one. Like, I think that Zion potentially could have overtaken him, especially if New Orleans caught Memphis. Depending on what he did the rest of the year, but he didn't play enough games, so you got to give it to Ja.
Yeah, you can't give it to. I mean, Zion's awesome and he's fun to watch, but I don't think what he was doing was so flabbergasting better than what Morant did for the majority of the year. That you can't. He had played half the season.
You're right, but what he was doing was better. Like, I would rather have Zion than Morant, but you're so right about that point. Like, even if it was better, and you could argue that Morant was like just as good as Zion in the 19 games Zion played, he wasn't so much better that you give him the rookie. 100% agree with that point.
All right, so just kind of since we're talking about rookies, and I'm going to ask you this question because you're a guy who watches a lot of college basketball, where again, I just don't watch a ton of college sports. Of all the rookies outside of the two big names, Zion and Morant, anybody else really impressed you so far this season? Anybody you thought was better than you expected? Anybody you thought was a big time disappointment for what you expected out of them?
Well, the first guy that comes to mind when you say like that really impressed me is Kevin Porter Jr. You know that I watched him a lot. Really like the cut of his jib. It came out of nowhere as like a late first round pick. I think he's been awesome. I think he's easily been one of the top, he's definitely been one of the top 10 rookies in the league, and I love his potential going forward. I've been impressed with Kobe White recently, no doubt about that.
Yes, no doubt. Good call.
He's been really good. I mean, I almost like, who would you rather have going forward, Kobe White or Zach LaVine?
Kobe White.
Yeah, right?
I know who Zach LaVine is. He's a solid player, but he's nothing but the third best player on a championship team.
Well, I view it a little differently, I think, but mostly the same. I think LaVine is like a really good scorer, but that's it. He's not like a great 3-point shooter. He's not a great passer. He's like a great scorer.
He can get you buckets. He's got some Lou Williams in him.
Yeah, which is like, I mean, he's good. Like, a lot of guys can't do that. But, I agree with you. I'd rather have the potential of Kobe White, who could be a better scorer and do more things.
I mean, there's something about knowing who a guy is. I mean, at no point is Zach LaVine going to be an MVP. There's just no way, no how. Whereas Kobe White, you're like, this kid could really turn into something.
Definitely. Now, in that same breath, like, he could also not be great in 2 years. And, like, we know who Zach LaVine is. But I couldn't agree with you more. Like, we know exactly who Zach LaVine is. He's never going to be an MVP. And while Kobe White probably won't, he's shown flashes of, like, that star potential. So
well, there's another thing, too. When we talk about three-point shooters, remember a couple of weeks ago when we broke down the difference between Giannis and Trae Young? And despite their percentages being not that different, everybody in their right mind knows that Trae Young, despite only being like 4 or 5% better on three-pointers this year than Giannis, is way more than a 4 or 5% better three-point shooter because he's taking wildly contested threes, 8 feet behind the line half the time, it seems like. He's got 3 people on him, whereas Giannis's three-point attempts are never covered. They're walk-up threes or spot-up. To me, when you look at Kobe White, like Zach LaVine's a good three-point shooter, but Kobe White's that guy you cannot leave open, a la Klay Thompson, Ray Allen, Steph Curry, like that. Like, you have got to be glued to him. Zach LaVine will take three-pointers, and he's a good three-point shooter. But Kobe White's like, you got to stay on this guy constantly.
Yeah, I don't view it like Trae Young versus Giannis, but I get your point, and I agree.
good 3-point shooter versus a guy that you just flat out can't leave open, and he will change and wreck the game for you. So to me, there's that little bit of a difference that, like, I don't know, I see some of that Klay Thompson in him where you just can't let this dude get going.
I get that. As far as like, bust, it's obviously really early to call a guy a bust because he haven't even played a full year. But a guy that was picked really high in the draft is Jarrett Culver, and he seems to really like not have done anything in a spot where he really could do a lot of things because Minnesota has nothing. What do you think?
Don't watch a lot of the Timberwolves. Haven't watched him play a bunch, so I don't want to pretend like I'm a Jarrett Culver expert. He has at no point jumped off my television screen or done anything to impress me. Also not a guy that I sat there and watched in college. So yeah, you're right. Nothing impressive there. I feel bad for anybody who plays in Minnesota though, because that's like a black hole.
Yeah, it really is, man. That is like the black hole, no doubt.
Like you look at them right there sandwiched between the Phoenix Suns, the Spurs, and the Golden State Warriors, where clearly the Warriors, everything that possibly could go wrong for a team went wrong this year. The Phoenix Suns are 7 games better. And I think they're still better than their record, but they're pulling themselves out of that black hole culture. Like Minnesota's a laughing stock. I mean, they are like the New York Knicks of the West.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, if not worse. Like Golden State, they're going to have a high draft pick, and they're already going to be a playoff team at least like next year, an upper echelon playoff team already next year with Curry, Clay, Draymond. I mean, whatever.
Wiggins, I'm not a huge Wiggins guy, but I mean, it's the third banana.
Potentially like the number 1 overall pick because they're that bad. I mean, at least the top 5 pick. Like they are going to be good.
Yes, definitely. So, I mean, the West, we talked about this a while. If you look at the top seeds in the West and the East, they're really, really close. But the problem with the West is like once you start dipping down versus the East, like there's no weak outs here except for Minnesota because again, Golden State's going to be good next year.
Like real good. I mean, Curry and Thompson, especially Thompson's been hurt and Draymond hasn't looked good. So I'm not going to automatically say they're like going to win a title next year, but I see no reason why they're not like
in the playoffs.
Well, I don't see any reason why they're not at least like the leader of the next step below the Clippers and Lakers. Like with Curry, Draymond, Klay Thompson, you said Wiggins, and another piece. Like I think that they're the 3rd best team in the West.
Yeah, without seeing them play, it's hard to say that, but I can't argue with you either.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like I can't say you're wrong. It's just hard to give a lot of factual evidence that supports that, but you're not wrong. Yeah, I mean, it's yet to be seen.
You see why I feel that way.
Yeah, I can't agree, but I can't argue either. So I'm gonna kind of almost abstain from that because these teams are all really close. Denver's good, Utah's good, the Rockets are good, the Mavericks with Porzingis reemerging and looking like the unicorn, and Luka clearly being awesome. Like this team's got a lot to be excited about moving forward as well. If we ever play sports again,
I don't think the gap between the Clippers and Lakers and the rest is like that big. I mean, it's decent, but I don't think it's like that big. I don't.
Not like the Warriors and the rest of the teams the last couple of years.
Exactly. Not even close to that.
All right. How about Coach of the Year? Because when we decided we were going to kind of talk this over and think about it, I did not have a really good answer for this one and who I thought the Coach of the Year would be.
For me, I think it's Nick Nurse for Toronto. After we haven't given them any MVP love because really there is no one to give an MVP. I think that he's the guy. The Raptors have been awesome. I mean, 46-18, really, really good. Not amazing, but really good. Second best in the East. They lost Kawhi. Regardless of what they were going to do or would do in the playoffs, I think you got to give him credit for the year that they've had.
You know what? You sold me. I'm with you. Nick Nurse. That's a good choice. I also like what Coach Spo has done with Miami, but we're going to give some credit to Jimmy Butler on that one. Put him up there 3rd in the MVP voting. So I like the idea of giving Nick Nurse the nod at Coach of the Year right there. I like good call. I'm with you on that one.
I definitely don't disagree with Spoelstra and Budenholzer, who probably won it last year, I would assume.
Yeah.
So that's like, I mean, listen, you could give it to him because they have the best record in the NBA. But I also feel like you could give it to Vogel for the Lakers. But ultimately, I think it's Nick Nurse.
I can't argue with you on that one either. In fact, I like that call a lot. And now that you say it, I'm kind of shocked that it's not where I ended up right away on my own. So good. I'm with that one wholeheartedly. And again, I'm a Coach Spo fan. I think he's been underappreciated a lot as well because Miami won those championships, but we're all thinking LeBron and Dwayne Wade. Miami's got a good culture down there. They try hard. Jimmy Butler has been the perfect addition for that team right there as far as culture goes. I think him and Coach Spo, see things eye to eye. So I like that as well. But I'd go Nurse, Coach Spo. And then, again, it's hard not to look at Coach Bud as well. But I think you're right. I think he did win it last year, too.
Man, the Heat, you got to like what they have going on there. And, like, they're also a free agent destination being in Miami. I mean, I like what they've got, what they're building in Miami in the next couple of years for sure.
I mean, I'm trying to picture myself as a 25-year-old millionaire, and I'm looking at these teams in the East right here. And my options are Indiana, Boston, Toronto, Milwaukee, or Miami. Where do you want to go, man? Like, I know where I want to go, and it's not Indiana. It's not Milwaukee. I've been to both of those places. Give me Miami.
Yeah, not even close. Agreed.
Like, Boston's a cool city, but let's not even – and so is Toronto. But Miami's got South Beach, the warm weather. I hear a lot of these NBA players like girls. I don't know if there's any validity to that one. I think that's the place where I'd want to be.
Yeah, I've heard that too. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it's Nurse and what we got next? Most improved.
Yeah, let's talk about the most improved player. I think that's we've kind of gone through a bunch of these guys. Early in the year, we were leaning real hard on Devontae Graham, but he fell off big time. What were some of the other guys you thought might be deserving of at least bringing up in that situation?
So Pascal Siakam, even though he was good last year, he's taking that leap. He was an all-star starter. He's really good. So I think you can make the case for him. No doubt about that. I still think Devontae Graham should be up there. He went from a late second-round pick not playing to a, borderline all-star type player in the first half of the season. I know he's tailed off, but he's still, a starting point guard in the league. I still think he's up there. And a guy that won't get it, that I think should get love, Colin Sexton.
Okay, I can get on board with that. Here's one for you. What would be your thoughts about talking about Markelle Fultz in that situation?
I think he fits right with those guys. I don't like him more. I don't like him less than those guys. Fultz, to me, it seemed like, not that he's had an up and down year. He hasn't been great. I don't know.
It's a weird one, and I wanted to bring it up because when a guy's an early pick, then you expect greatness out of him. And clearly the first couple seasons did not go the way that he wanted. But he turned himself into a really solid NBA starter this year. So while I wouldn't give him the award either, I wanted to give him a shout out because we've talked all year about how we like how this young man kind of went from looking to be like Anthony Bennett level type of bust to being a solid NBA starter this year.
It's a good call. I agree with that point. He wouldn't get the award and he wouldn't get it from me, but I like those points, no doubt about that.
Yeah, I like when I watch guys who look like things are going just awful and everything is crashing down on them. And then they pull themselves up by their bootstraps and do something well. So I like that. A guy that we didn't bring up and talk about for Rookie of the Year, and clearly he's not going to be in there, but he also is kind of becoming one of the more improved players throughout the season. I do want to give a shout out to Cam Reddish as well.
Yeah, he's been really good as the year progresses. He was like a late bloomer in college, so no surprise there. He's been awesome for a young Hawks team.
I remember when he would get a start on DFS early in the year, and everybody's like, oh, let's load up on Reddish at 3K. He'd go play 22 minutes and give you like 4 points, and you'd watch the Hawks play. You're like, this kid does not belong at this level. But he has really turned himself into a solid scorer as the season's progressed.
Yeah, exactly. That's why sometimes you got to give these, kids like a little bit of time to develop. One guy, speaking of developing, that we didn't touch on for MVP, where he's not the MVP, but he's in that conversation, and he's also in the conversation for most improved. Can you guess who I'm speaking about?
We didn't touch on him. East or Western Conference?
East.
Ben Simmons?
No, Jason Tatum.
Oh, yeah, duh, that makes way more sense. Yes, you're right. He does deserve to be. The problem with getting the MVP for Boston is there's so many good players on that team, and they're all so close. But Tatum has definitely emerged as the best player on that team.
Yeah.
A lot to like right there. You saw the last couple of weeks prior to this horrible break that we're dealing with that really emerging as a strong, solid, all-star player.
Yeah, I think he fits right in the MVP conversation with like Harden and Westbrook, maybe right above those guys. And you know what? After thinking about it and talking about it, I would have Dame below all those guys because just of their team's record. I know Portland's just awful. So Tatum's, right in that secondary mix. I still have like Butler ahead of him, but you're right. in the sense that Boston has a bunch of really good players, but also in the sense that Tatum has established himself as the best.
Right. I would, if I had to go win a game tomorrow, I would take him over Kemba.
Oh yeah, me too. He's smooth, man. He looks so like I can't remember who I said he reminds me of before. He reminds me of Paul George. I don't know. I think he's just I like his game.
Sky's the limit for him too, because what is he,
Yeah.
14 years old?
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, he reminds me like shows me like when I watch him play. Sometimes he reminds me of Paul George. Sometimes Brandon Ingram, and those are two guys that are really good in my mind. So, let's since I'm talking about all three of those guys, George, Ingram, Tatum, rank them in terms of like who you'd rather have on your team going forward as as the first pick or whatever.
Like going forward.
Yeah, even to say like you're not like putting them on on a team already built, so it's not about fit. Just who do you like more going forward? Rank them.
All right. I'm assuming I'm playing for more than a season.
Yeah, you're playing for 5 years.
All right. So I got Paul George then clearly in third place because of age. I mean, this guy's he's 10 years into his NBA career. For me, he's always been a little bit overrated. He definitely pushed those Indiana teams. They had that good year where it looked like maybe they beat LeBron, but I find Paul George to be a little bit overrated, and he's also at the age where 10 years in, he ain't getting better. If anything, he's getting worse.
I don't disagree with any of your points. I think most people would have George ahead of Ingram, though, at least. Do you agree?
Yes, maybe. Although I do think people have really started to buy into Brandon Ingram over the last month or two. Like they're finally like, okay, this kid's got it. I think for me, the question is Ingram or Tatum. And
Same.
I'll go with Tatum, but it's really close to me. Brandon Ingram is a good basketball player. And now that we bring him up, how is he not in the nomination for most improved?
He definitely is. Yeah, you're right. I guess it's a point that you make, though. Like, is he more improved or is he just like have a better opportunity? Both.
It's both.
It's both. I would also take Tatum over Ingram, even though I'm more of an Ingram fan. I'm not sure why. I guess, I don't know. I think that Tatum is more built to be like the number one guy on a team.
I can't argue with you on that one. I do want to say Brandon Ingram is shooting 39% from three-point range this year, taking 6.3 attempts per game. Like, he's become a really good outside shooter this year.
He's good, man. Like, he's another one. Sometimes you just got to let these guys develop. Man, New Orleans, the West teams, as you talked about, a lot of those teams have really nice core pieces. None better than New Orleans with Ingram, Zion. And then Lonzo's like the perfect point guard for those guys. I really like what New Orleans has going on.
All right, what was that? I missed you for a sec.
Said I really like what New Orleans has going on with their young pieces, Zion, Ingram, Lonzo, who I'm a big fan of, who also could be in consideration for most improved.
Yeah, Lonzo's had himself a really solid season as well. I know LeBron's in win now mode, but I don't know these guys would have developed the same with LeBron on the team though either, which is
agreed.
Just, it's interesting to talk about and take a look at from that perspective. So I do really like what Brandon Ingram has been selling this year. Big fan now. Very smooth with the ball.
He's right up there for most improved. You're right.
Yeah. The team that shocked everybody this year that, again, why am I drawing a blank? Who's the head coach of OKC? Why can't I think of his name right now?
Billy Donovan.
Thank you.
You're right.
40-24. Solid. Not what people expected. Now, they're a better team than people realize. I know once they sold Paul George and Russell Westbrook, like this team's got to start over. And I'm hard on Chris Paul, but Chris Paul is still a star. Not a superstar, but a star. Shai is emerging. I think the Clippers got absolutely fleeced in that trade personally. Shai is going to be a stud. Your boy Dennis Schroeder is good. Gallo and Adams are solid NBA players. I mean, they're 5 deep on good players. So they're not as bad as people kind of thought they were going to be. So while it's a surprise they're this good, I don't think it should be as big of a surprise when you really break their team down.
I agree. They just have no superstar. They've got a bunch of really good players. Star-ish at this point in Chris Paul. I'm not ready. I'm not going to say he's a star. I'm not saying he's not a star. I think he's like somewhere in between there. He's older now, and he can in the playoffs. I'm real interested to see how he plays. They're a tough out, man. They're a veteran team. I think that I forgot about him. He's probably right behind Nurse for me in Coach of the Year. How could he not be right up there?
Yeah, this is not what people expected. I don't think most NBA fans expected
No,
them to be in the midst of the playoffs. Like, they're a playoff team.
I
There's no way they're not going to be.
I can't think of hardly anyone that would have them ahead of Portland going into the year.
Right. And again, this is where watching the game and realizing how big of a difference role players make and what they bring to a team. We've talked about Portland all year long. Now, Hassan Whiteside puts up stats at the same rate, if not more so, than Nurkic. But Nurkic is a better basketball player, better defense overall. And then also the losses of Aminu and Mo Harkless, those were the glue guys that played defense for this team. Portland went from being, I believe, a top 10 defensive team to damn near the bottom of the league. And it's made a huge difference for them.
Yeah, massive difference. Their personnel has changed. Whiteside is one of these guys that just puts up numbers, but he's a numbers chaser. He's a blocks chaser. I mean, obviously it's not easy to do or other people would do it, but I don't think he helps them like really on a team defensive point of view. They're missing Nurkic. You talked about they lost Aminu. They lost guys like Mo Harkless. We'll see how long they keep Dame and McCollum together. I don't think that much longer, to be honest.
It's not working.
No.
Like, I was actually really proud of the Detroit Pistons for just blowing that thing up because they kept trying to hang on to being like the 7 or the 8 seed. And it's like, this is never going to work. Drummond and Blake Griffin are never going to be good enough to make you anything more than a bottom tier seed in the East. Got to start from scratch. And I think, unfortunately for Portland fans, you had a nice little run last year. You made some bad decisions, in my opinion, about where you went with some of your key like role players. And it's just not working.
Yeah, I guess making the conference finals last year might be the worst thing that could ever happen to them, really, because that might keep them together. It shouldn't.
Kind of. Yeah, and Dame's got a place. Like, where Dame would be really good is the next star. Is a team that's already one of the best in the league. He would fit really well with Giannis Antetokounmpo.
You say that about a lot of guys, but
sure, but like a guy like him who you need a bucket at the end of the game,
I think
that's where I want Damian Lillard.
It is, but honestly, I think McCollum would be the one to go because Dame, personally, I just think that McCollum would be the one they would trade.
Sure, I'm not saying they'll trade Damian Lillard. I think he would be a very good running mate because I don't think Damian Lillard is ever going to be the guy who's good enough to be the number one on a championship team.
Okay.
But I think he'd be a perfect complement because his skill set of putting the ball in the basket, shooting free throws, hitting a big three-pointer. I mean, at the end of the game, McCollum's good, but like Dame's better, right?
Dame's better, but McCollum also doesn't need the ball in his hands as much. Dame is better than McCollum, like no doubt about it. But McCollum has a lot of Dame-like qualities. He does.
Sure. I would happily have McCollum on the Milwaukee Bucks. Don't get me wrong. I'm not kicking him out of bed for eating crackers or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, I think we know at this point of his career, Damian Lillard will never be the number one on a championship team.
Yeah, and you could say that about most guys in the NBA.
Of course. But I think he'd be a great Robin to the Batman of Giannis because his skill set is the one area of weakness for Giannis. And it's kind of like LeBron when he was young. He did everything well for 47 minutes, but the stupid point that Skip Bayless would make over and over again is he's still not going to be ever the guy you love the ball in his hand at the end of the game. Now, he's gotten better as his career has progressed, but that's still not his strong suit because he's not a good free throw shooter, whereas I think Lillard's probably, 87% for his career?
Yeah, something like that. He's really good.
I want to look that up. And I need a bucket at the end of the game. I think Lillard's top 5 for me, for guys I'd want.
Oh, yeah.
12 seconds to go.
He's
down by 2.
He might be number 1 right now. It's LeBron. You said 87%?
I said 88. I was off by 88.9.
So
maybe I did say 87. Close. He's good.
If I need a bucket, it's LeBron for me. I've seen it too many times. If you need a bucket, give it to LeBron James because he's at least getting to the free throw line. After that, man.
What about Kawhi?
Yeah, Kawhi's right there. You talk about how clutch Kawhi is. So I still have LeBron over Kawhi. But I think Kawhi is number 2. And then I think I have Dame number 3.
I'm good with that pecking order. And I think you can make arguments, who the 1, 2, and 3 are. And I do want to say, I brought up LeBron's choke issues early on in his career. He's overcome that. Again, he's not a great free throw shooter, which has been one of his Achilles heel, but nobody's perfect. But his percentage of shots to win games is, rest in peace. It's better than Kobe's.
Yeah, for sure.
And people always, you think of guys like Michael Jordan. Again, I think I don't have the numbers in front of me. I swear I heard this once, though, that on shots with less than 5 seconds to go to win or tie the game, LeBron's shooting percentage is higher than Michael Jordan's. I swear I've heard that. I could be wrong, though. Please don't quote me on that.
Well, because he gets to the hole. Like, I mean, that's what I would see in Cleveland time and time again. Like, can't stop him from getting to the hole. People would be like, he should just do that all game. Well, it's hard to do that all game. But, like, the end of the game, I mean, the first thing I think of, and you probably, I don't know, like the Wizards. He beat the Wizards a couple times in the playoffs by just going to the hole. This is like some of his first playoff, wins. And it just became unstoppable. So that's automatically what I think of as, under 15 seconds who I want with the ball. But I'm very biased too.
Yeah, and I get that as a Cleveland guy. How are you not? You're going to be biased on your own guys. I'm Aaron Rodgers biased. I fully admit that.
I mean, it's hard not to be.
Exactly. So that's where I think Dame's got a spot, and I just think that if he wants to do it in Portland, you get into the same issue. But people don't go to Portland.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's interesting because like most of these guys aren't going to win titles because that's just the nature of the beast. And I know Dame's made it a point to saying like he wants to stay in Portland, and he's not going to be a guy that teams up with another superstar. I mean, he said that multiple times, but who knows later in his career, guys want rings.
Yeah, he's a guy I would love to have the ball in his hands at the game.
The rings culture has gotten a little out of hand. Did you hear Draymond Green? And we can finish on this, but just as a side note, Draymond Green and Charles Barkley go at it. You hear Draymond Green say like, "I've got 3 rings. Like he can't sit at this table." Like, I'm sorry, but are you fucking crazy? Like, Barkley was, I mean, so much of a better player than Draymond in every single. Like, Barkley was an MVP when Michael Jordan was playing. Legit, he won MVP while Jordan was playing. Draymond is very good. Don't get me wrong, but the only thing against Barkley is that he doesn't have a ring. Like, literally, the only thing. He was dominant.
I mean, this guy was a 58%. I mean, his efficiency was off the hook. He could shoot the free throws 73%. He wasn't bad. Great rebounder through the entirety of his career. Averaged over 10 rebounds a game every year but his rookie season. And he was doing this too at 6'6"?
Yeah, like this guy is easily one of the 50 best NBA players ever.
People forget about him because you're right. He doesn't have any rings. He moved around a little bit from team to team, playing multiple years for Philadelphia, Phoenix, and Houston. He was a very good player. And I'm sorry, Draymond, you're not even in the same class as him. Like Robert Horry was also then quoted later on as saying people who judge athletes and team sports based on their championships don't know what they're talking about. Because Robert Horry's sitting there with 7 rings, and he knows that he ain't a 7-ring type of guy. He just got a very lucky run throughout his career playing for good teams.
It's ignorant of Draymond to say stuff like that. He knows. He can't be that.
He does know.
He definitely knows because he was just caught up in the moment. He got embarrassed by He knows. There's no way he doesn't know because he knows the game. Draymond is a very good player. He's not a scrub by any means. He might end up going to the Hall of Fame. But if you put him on another team, like
he's nothing.
He might not still be in the league. So
he's an excellent role player that happened to fall into a situation where he fit perfectly with this team. And I've talked about this repeatedly on this show for years, that the way Golden State was constructed, it wasn't just that they were good, they complemented one another very, very well, versus like the Heat with LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, just as much talent, but they didn't complement each other.
Barkley played 16 years in the league and averaged in totality 22 and 12. That's I mean, doesn't get much better than that.
Again, wasn't a great 3-point shooter. That's fine. The NBA back then wasn't about shooting threes.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's like one of those conversations you can get into for semantics when it comes to sports as well. Like Michael Jordan wasn't a great 3-point shooter. But you don't think that if the NBA progressed to the point that it is right now, Michael Jordan wouldn't have made himself a great 3-point shooter? He was fine. He was taking, decent amounts. But for his career, less than 33%.
I was watching highlights of Steve Smith. I'm sure you remember him. He was a good player, in our younger generation. I was watching a highlight of him. He made like 7 threes in the fourth quarter. He played for the Hawks. It was like in the 2005 or something like that. And it was like, a guy to shoot that many threes even then, like you didn't see it. Like the announcers were like surprised. And this was only 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Times have changed a lot.
No doubt. If Michael Jordan played today, he would have made himself a great three-point shooter. No doubt in my mind. This guy willed himself to be one of, the greatest, basketball player. If you want to argue it, that's fine. But you're not going to argue him being top 3. If you want to make that argument of all that we've ever seen, he would have made himself a great three-point shooter if that's the way the NBA played now.
Yeah, exactly. No doubt. I mean, you think about how the NBA is played now, it would have been a detriment to him if he couldn't make threes like that. I mean, you have to be able to shoot threes now if you're a guy like that.
When you think about Magic Johnson, too, like for his career, he took just over 1 3-pointer per game. Like Magic probably would have found a way to make himself a very good three-point shooter, or at least, Russell Westbrook level or something like a little bit better than that to like keep people off of him. But he wasn't a three-point shooter because he didn't have to be, and that's not how they played back then.
I see a lot of the Russell Westbrook. I don't see him being like a good three-point shooter, but like capable.
It's hard to know because he never had to shoot threes, really, right?
Yes, exactly. Although I don't think shooting was like his game ever.
No, but he never had to because of the team that he played for, the guys that were around him, what he did very well. Jason Kidd would be another good example of that early in his career.
In my opinion. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, early in his career, Jason Kidd was a moderate three-point shooter. You see a lot of these 33, 29, 32%. By the end of his career, knowing that he had to become better at that, like he had 3 straight years of shooting 40% or better.
Well, I remember at the beginning of his career, a lot of people used to call him Ace and Kid because he didn't have a J at all. Like I remember reading that as when I was younger and howling about it. He was also like built in the Russell Westbrook mold, where he wouldn't be an amazing three-point shooter, even in this beginning part of his career, but he would have been capable. And then the later part of his career, he did become a good three-point shooter, as you mentioned.
Yeah, because he figured out that his game needed to work on that, and he wasn't as fast as he used to be, and he made adjustments because that's what great players do.
He really evolved his game. He was a really good player in the league.
Yeah, for a long time.
Yes. A long time. Wow.
I mean, this guy played from 94 and 95 up to 2012, 2013. So we're talking, what is that, 18 seasons or something like that? I mean, this guy balled. 21. Led the league in assists 5 different times, was always up there, turned himself into a good three-point shooter as the season, his career progressed.
Yeah. I see a lot of like John Wall in Jason Kidd. I see a lot of Jason Kidd in John Wall.
Yeah, I can get on board with that.
I think Wall is less skilled, more athletic.
Yeah, it's hard to be. I mean, John Wall is quite athletic.
Yeah.
Or used to be. I don't know. He hasn't played in 30 years. What happened to him?
True.
So, all right, guys, we just wanted to get on here and talk a couple NBA things for a few minutes. If anybody is interested in us doing other videos, please go out. Give us some suggestions. We don't know what else to talk about right now with no sports going on. Right before we got on here, I did my first, fitness tip video. I'll get better at doing those and figure out other things to talk about. But we are down to clown if anybody's looking for any other kind of subjects you want us to go through. We've skinny down the YouTube channel, so there's a lot of like strategy videos on there. Let us know what you'd like us to hear us talk about, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll do that. One thing I was thinking about, maybe we could do, talk to you after about it, is potentially starting like a dynasty baseball or football league and, having the draft take multiple days, give us something to do. I don't know if anyone would be interested. Let me know.
I have a lot of free time right now, so I'm open.
I'm in that club too.
All right, guys. And again, thanks again to the people who left out the tips and the gifts. That's really well appreciated. Means a lot to us. And again, the money's nice, but just knowing that people care feels really good these days.
Amen.